Here we go with episode 12 Q&A. I Will Never Forgive You podcast, which means it's been 24 weeks, which means it's been half a year, essentially. 6 months. March 3rd is when I released the first episode. Now this is going to be September 3rd. So, even though there's 52 weeks a year, we've done 24 weeks. This is basically our half year anniversary. Now, I'm not doing anything special. Just wanted to make a note of it. Like, for all those haters, which I have no haters, but for all those haters in my head, the imaginary haters who believe that it would never get past episode 3, it was a little shaky. Like, this one here, I seriously consider just pushing it back a week because I just don't have time for this. But I'm not going to have time next week either, so I might as well just make time now. I'm slowly clawing myself out of this big hole I've got where, like, I'm just behind at everything. Slowly but surely clawing myself out. But the faster I get to the questions, the faster we can get through this. So, let's just get to the questions. All right. Comments. Questions and comments. So, this is we're going to do the actual podcast first, and then I'll go to the Q&A video. But this is the main topic podcast. All right. So, Plasticus just man, I wish I knew how to pronounce that. Always got great comments up, so no hate. Why can't anybody just ever be named Fred or Bill? We have a Jimmy. Thank effing Christ we have a Jimmy. I like the companion video idea. Theory crafting is the best. This is in reference to what I'm doing with One Piece. Started doing a little bit. Not doing the rewind portion for JoJo, but I'm starting to incorporate the Q&A into JoJo. I really like the Q&As. I like answering questions and addressing comments. It's not just questions, it's also comments. Like, this is a comment, this isn't a question. But yeah, I like it a lot. I can't wait for it to hit YouTube. Today is going to be 11/13, which means we are 19 weekdays away from you seeing the first rewind episode. So, looking forward to that. I can't wait for you guys to see it. I want to see what the general public thinks of the new format. Basically, talking for an extra hour about each episode. We'll see. Alright, this next one's from Barracuda. I think I know which scene you're talking about from Death Note. The tennis match. I don't remember a tennis match. It's possible. It's been a while since I've watched this. I should hate watch Death Note at some point. I feel like I'm slowly but surely heading in that direction. To hate watching that, and then I'll go ahead and hate watch Last Airbender after that. So then my life will be... Oh, and then I'll hate watch Cloud Atlas. Cloud effing Atlas, as I like to call it. I don't think Death Note has a lot of these, you did this because you want me to do this, but it had some. I personally like Death Note because it has well-written characters and a good story. To the main topic. I quit a lot of anime after watching 1 to 2 episodes because I considered them to be meh. Meh is one of my favorite words. Even the word itself is just average. M-E-H. 3 of the more boring letters in the English alphabet. I mean, exciting letters like X, plus, triple. You get 3 of those X's, you got something really exciting happening, right? So X, and also Family Feud, this is how they block people. Yeah, we're going to block you. Right? So X is very versatile. Then we've got J is a great, exciting letter. A is always good because A starts the word ass. So, and I'm an ass man. So A is a good, so we have a lot of good letters in the alphabet, but like M, E, H are not, none of those are good letters. And then they form one of the more boring words, which means basically, yeah, it's boring. It's not, see, like they always say, give me an A or give me an F. Don't give me a C. Meh is C. It's just a C, right? Like, it's not an A, it's not wonderful, and it's not awful. It's just a C. It's meh. So, yeah. What are you going to do with meh? You ain't doing shit with that. There's nothing you can do with it. But I don't know if this is considered rage quitting. No, like, if it's something just meh, then you're not angry. You're just bored. You're not even gonna bother trying to find the show again. When does it come on again? Who cares? I don't know. I think rage quitting is closer to quitting the show that you initially liked, but eventually turned it into something bad. Yeah, here's the thing. Or there's just something about it. What I was said. Now you have your own opinion. My definition was, you like the show, but there's that thing. They call it the original sin in TV tropes. There's a thing that was always there, but it gets bigger and bigger and worse, and finally you just can't ignore it anymore. That's kind of for me. It was always there. Maybe, there was always the comedy relief character who was annoying, but they get more and more screen time as we go along, and more screen time, and more screen time. Finally, you're like, man, I don't want to see this dude anymore. I'm sick of looking at this son of a bitch. And so you just quit watching. Because you're just sick of looking at it, right? Like that's, and you're kind of saying the same thing in a different way. Which is, you initially liked it, but eventually it turned into something bad. Like, whereas, like, you liked what it was at first, but then it just took a swerve and went a different direction. Like, the best example is what I gave last time with Bones. The way Booth interrogated people it was there from the very first episode. It just built and built and built and got more and more annoying and more annoying. And finally I was just like, screw it. I don't give a shit. I'm done. So, I just realized I meant to do the follow-up as part of the actual podcast. So I think if there's any more questions or any comments that are addressing rage quitting, I'll do that over there. I forgot until just now. But we'll leave this here. This is an advertisement to go over and watch the actual podcast, which I think more people do that. Let me check the numbers here real quick. I think more people do the actual podcast than do the Q&A. Yeah, last time there's 62 people watched the podcast and 54 watched the Q&A. And then before that, it's even more. Well, as time goes by, they get bigger and bigger, the numbers. But the podcast before that was 134 for the podcast and only 88 for the Q&A. So you don't need to be out. Anybody here is going to watch the podcast, but not necessarily everybody in the podcast is going to watch the Q&A. Interesting. I guess if you didn't leave a comment, why would you go over here? Because we talk about interesting shit, man. You never know what you have no idea what the hell's going to come out of my mouth next. I'm talking about meh. I'm talking about how there's some sexy letters and some boring letters in the alphabet. You're not going to get that in the main podcast. Of course, you're here, or you wouldn't be seeing what I'm saying right now, so I'm preaching to the choir. I will preach over there. During my promotion for the actual podcast, I'm going to try to get some more asses over here to this video. We're doing some fun shit here. So people need to come over. Alright, anyway, next one's Ariel. I can see that you were thrown by that. I'll let you suck my teats if you let me gobble your wiener. Don't say it again. Don't say it again. Now you got me saying it. Damn. Line in LOL. The show is a little crazy. You don't effing say. It just threw me, man. I'm just not used to that. It's like there are places where you eat with your fingers. Say you eat, like I've seen people eat Chinese food with their fingers, right? Like that's one of the more messy kinds of food that you have. You got rice all over the place. You need a spoon, man. I know that they use chopsticks, but you need a spoon to get all that rice off that plate, right? Like, you ain't doing that with your fingers. You sure as hell ain't doing it with chopsticks. But people be eating, like, Chinese food with their fingers. There are places where that happens. But if you go into a 5-star restaurant, you're not expecting to see people sitting there at the table using their fingers. You're expecting, and, I was taught you have one hand off the table. Like, if you're right-handed, that left hand is in your lap. People don't ever see the left hand. They may not even know if you have a left hand. They see an arm that disappears on the table. That shit stays under the table. Right hand is at the table, and it's using utensils. Oh, there is one exception with the left hand. Left hand it's okay for the left hand to come up when you want to drink. So you can drink with the left hand, and then right hand's utensils. But anytime you're not drinking, that shit gets out of sight. Because, I was raised in a household where you don't have, like, your arms sitting there, like, your left hand just kind of wrapped around your plate, and it's in sight in the way, and then maybe you're shoveling extra food in with your hand, or you're grabbing a roll or something like that. That's just not how I was raised. I know households differ, but you had manners. This shit was gone. This shit over here is using the utensils, and that's just the way it is, right? That's how I was raised. Also, I was raised, you have to say, "May I be excused, please?" before you don't just get up and leave the dinner table. You had to ask, "May I be excused, please?" And they would say yes. And you go, I don't think they ever said no unless I hadn't finished my liver or whatever. So you're not going to walk into a 5-star restaurant and be expecting to see somebody eating with their fingers. That's not going to happen. If you do walk into a 5-star restaurant and see that, you're going to be your brain's going to be stuck in park from it. You're going to be thunderstruck. And that's what happened. I wasn't expecting this in that. You know, like I told you, one of the reasons I never watched anime is I thought it was all sex. I really did. I thought it was just sex and perversion, right? Which, look, I'm not a prude. I don't mind sex and perversion. I just want it on my time, right? It's not something I share with people, right? Like if I'm watching sex and perversion. So I've never been comfortable like watching really hot, steamy sex scenes with other people, you know? So it's just, I don't know, it makes me feel self-conscious. And so, also, I think it's weak writing. I think I was just spoiled and ruined by my experience of filmmaking, because I didn't used to feel this way. Then I got into filmmaking. I went to the American film market, half a dozen times. And the first thing on the list was, you got to film here. You have a DVD. Hey, watch this and distribute this. Buy this movie from me and distribute it. We'll all make money. Before they even take the DVD out of your hands, they ask the first question, is there any nudity? Because you have to check that box. You have to have some nudity, and it better be hot. Can't be some trailer trash. I actually had somebody tell me that one time. It's like, there was one film that I didn't direct that was going to have nudity in it. We never finished the film because the director holds the story. I've told it. But I went out there trying to get distribution before we shot the film. Is it going to have nudity? Yep. Are they hot? He says, we can't be having no trailer trash or hogs out here. We want to see nudity people want to see. And that was like the step one in me. What are we doing here? And this goes for it. It's not just about sex. It could be violence. It could be anything. They could be saying, look, we're not going to pick up your film unless you have a car chase in it. And if my story didn't have a car chase, I'm going to feel weird in some kind of way about just forcing a goddamn car chase into the movie. Because I have a story I want to tell. These are the story beats. This is the character arc. We start here, we end here. This is how I want to finish it. Maybe I've got a cool ass finish, right? For example, my story where like there's another person in the story and the audience doesn't realize there's a third person at the table until the end of the movie. Then they realize there was a third person there the whole time. That was very tightly, meticulously plotted out. I did 25 revisions on the script. Everything had to be really tight. It had to all make sense. Everything. There couldn't be any contradictions or plot holes. This had to be wired tight. So I worked my ass off on that script. Take it out there. You need a sex scene. And make sure there's plenty of nudity in it. Why, man? The story was finished. It's completely written. You're going to shoehorn in some crap that has nothing to do with anything in my vision. And it's not even me being a precious artist. The story was finished. I worked on it for 2 years. It had 25 drafts. There's other times I'd go in there and I'd be like, hey, man, we're just trying to make a movie here. What do you want? Because you can ask the distributor, what do you want? And they tell you, these are the things we want. Go make that movie, and then they'll distribute it. You can do that if you just want to make some money, which I'm not opposed to. This particular script, I had labored over this mother. I had really spent some time on it. And it was meticulously plotted, and it just shoehorned in an additional scene, whether we were talking sex scene, car chase. There has to be a banana in it. The Brazil loves bananas, so make sure there's some bananas in it. There are some non-sex examples. You can't have certain things if you want to go to China. You can't have talking animals. You can't have animals that don't act like animals. And I think you can't do ghosts, I think was the other thing. If you have ghosts, China won't distribute the movie. So it's just arbitrary, man. Like, so I am annoyed with the arbitrary shoehorning shit in that doesn't have anything to do with the story to try to get more people to watch it. So I really I can't emphasize enough. I'm not coming from the precious arts. Oh, my precious words. My words are so precious. You can't touch my words. Because there are writers out there like that. There are writers that just fly off the handle if you want to make any changes whatsoever. I know the business. I know how it's run. I'm just saying that like there is a certain cynicism to it, and there's a certain let's just cram this in here that I just don't like, man. It just rubs me the wrong way. And I've always felt that way about sex scenes. I think that nudity, we'll even just make a nudity. I think there's only been 2 or 3 examples of nudity in a film that was actually plot relevant. Schindler's List was one of them. The nudity they showed in the showers was to emphasize the dehumanization and how unsexy and how horrible it was. So the nudity served a purpose. It served a thematic purpose. It served an artistic purpose. It served a plot purpose. It was to demonstrate the horror of what was happening in these rooms, these gas chambers, or even just the delousing showers, right? You know, that served a purpose. That's one of the few times I've ever seen nudity serve a purpose. I think once something I've seen at some point this past year, it was a sex scene that's like, okay, I said it during the reaction. I was like, wow, this actually served a plot purpose for once. You know, it's rare, but it happens. So, so I'm not a prude. I just think for the most part, you're weak, you're a weak writer, you're a weak filmmaker. It's the only way you can get distribution. And you're just like, oh, yes, sir, I will do whatever you want. Just let, give me the money and I will do whatever you want. Now look, I'm a broke ass failed filmmaker. So don't do me. Go out there and sell out. Sell your soul. Sell out and make your money and have a good career. That's what you should do. You should not, don't be like Shadow Dog. Do not do as Shadow Dog did. I'm just a stubborn asshole. And I just absolutely refuse to kiss ass. And I'm not going to lick the boots, man. I'm just not going to do it, which is why I failed. Literally why I failed as a filmmaker. I'm not going to lick the boots. It's just not in me, man. Shoot me in the face. Like, it's just not in me. I just can't do it, man. I'm not built that way. I'm not wired that way. Probably because I had people stomping me out from as early back as I can remember, 5 years old. Just always constantly bullying me and making me do shit that I didn't want to do. And once I got out of that and I got the ability to defend myself, I'm like, I ain't doing jack shit I don't want to do. Nothing. Not a goddamn thing for the rest of my life. Make up for my childhood. We can psychoanalyze that if we want to. I'm just not doing it, man. So I just refuse to shoehorn this crap into typically sex scenes, typically nudity. I'm not doing it. So I typically have a dim view of people and genres and industry norms where it's just accepted that your writing is so weak you have to have this shit in here. I'm so much more impressed when they don't have any of that crap in there and are super successful. Like One Piece is super successful. I don't think they've had an on-screen kiss. Now, they will shove tits in your face and the breasts constantly get bigger, and every now and then you get a fat ass in your face. Like Lilith, my God. Baby got back. Just saying, man. Like, that is just out of control. So they will shove an ass in your face. They will shove the tits in your face. But I don't think we've had an on-screen kiss. I think, as far as we know in the series, like, the babies come from storks. Like, that, they're just there. We don't see any of the production, which is fine. I think he's such a great writer, he doesn't need that crap. Although the fan service is there, right? For anime, seeing the TNA is probably better than seeing a kiss anyway, right? Like live action, I think kiss might actually be hotter, depending on the chemistry of the actors. But for anime, he's got the right. So he does do fan service. But anyway, what I was trying to say was that before I started watching any anime, and I'd seen the hell is it? I keep forgetting the name of it. Star Blazers, I think is the name of it. I had seen Star Blazers as a kid on bootleg VHS tapes they had brought back from Japan. And it was like, I think he had the whole series, or at least a season or something on these VHS tapes. I think it was like 8 tapes or something. And each tape could hold like 6 hours. So it was a lot. That's the only anime I'd ever watched. I just thought I thought of it as a cartoon. I didn't think of it as anime. I didn't make the anime connection until later. You know, I was like, wait a minute, that was anime. Yeah, I just thought, back when you're a kid, everything, if it's hand drawn, it's a cartoon. You don't think about the different genres, right? So I just had walked in on, I hadn't, not really had any exposure to it. Heard about anime, heard people talking about anime. People had referenced it. I had heard about One Piece. I didn't know what the hell it was. I'd heard about Naruto and Last Airbender, and that's about it, right? But then I walked in, and my friend's girlfriend at the time was watching some DVD of anime. Is this woman was like praying to a god or a demon or something and masturbating into a cup as a sacrifice, an offering to this demon. And it was anime, but it was like, you know, it was off the chain. I was like, God damn, right? And I remember thinking, I was like, oh, so that's what anime is. No wonder everybody watches that crap, right? And that was it. And I was very dismissive. And I was like, well, if that's what they're doing, then, you know, leave me out of it, right? Like, 'cause it's just, you know, like I said, it's just low level, low hanging fruit, low effort. Anybody can just throw some sex on the screen and just call it a day and, hey, I'm a great writer. I'm very dismissive of all that, right? Low opinion of it. So that's why I never watched any anime. So then, get my reaction channel and, you know, I don't know how I started watching Hunter x Hunter. Because I think Hunter x Hunter is what brought Andy. Andy's like a huge advocate of Hunter x Hunter. But I think me watching Hunter x Hunter is what brought him to me. So I don't know who the hell it was. It may have been Klaus. I don't know who the hell it was that got me on it in the first place. I said, all right, I'll try this one anime. It better be good, or I'm never watching it anymore. And there better not be any damn sex, right? And there was no damn sex, and it was really good. And then next thing I know, like, I'm watching all the anime. And yeah, so then for 2 or 3 years, it was all really good shit. And it was all, you know, like above board, and, you know, perversions. You know, you had Great Teacher Asinka, you had the TNA, you had the fan service. I don't think I even saw any nudity. Like, you know, just nobody, not even an ass. Like, in live action, you'll see an ass. They don't mind showing the ass, right? You know, anything else is like off limits for any kind of like. But they did naked ass on network TV back in the late '80s, early '90s. Was it Homicide? That fat dude, right? He showed his ass. Dennis Franz or whatever his name is. But not even an ass in the end of this anime. And then we get to this, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you got this crazy bitch saying this wild ass shit to an underage boy. I was like, God damn! It just took me. It was like walking into a restaurant and seeing people eat with their hands. An expensive gourmet restaurant. I just wasn't expecting it. So, like I said, I'm not a prude. I don't give a shit. Like, you know, if I had been forewarned, I'd probably would have had a better reaction to that. So maybe there's, like, without spoilers, maybe there's a way to warn me. It's like, just be caution. Say something like this. Like, just so you know, this one's a little off the chain. So I'm mentally prepared. I've, like, said my prayers. I've done the Hail Marys or whatever. I've burned the incense and cleansed the room and anointed myself with the oils so that I am mentally and emotionally prepared for this to be a little bit different than what I usually watch. I think I got too comfortable. I was watching all the safe shit. Like, you're not going to see a line like that in One Piece. It's like, just, you know, I've watched 1,141 episodes of One Piece, and it got me complacent. And then I walked down the wrong alley, and somebody hit me in the head with the club. So that's what happened. Wild. Absolutely wild. All right, back to Barracuda. Instead of attack names, we need something similar to or Mudda from JoJo. I agree. That was I like it. I like it. It's weird, I don't. Yeah, I've been in the fights in my life, and I don't think anybody ever had like a catchphrase or a word they would just repeat as they were beating the shit out of me. So, but somehow it works. Somehow it works. I don't know why, but I just really like it in JoJo. This shit is hilarious, and that I thought about it. JoJo doesn't actually use this, which is strange since JoJo, from what I have heard, is quite old of a manga. So I think the author is just, he's just different, man. The author of JoJo is built different. He's on a whole new dimension from everybody else. They say if Leonardo da Vinci or Einstein or Newton had been born in any other generation, they would have still been the geniuses they were. Picasso, like, you know, that kind of way of looking at the world and that kind of talent and that just kind of like out of the box thinking works in any generation, unless you go all the way back to the cavemen. I guess if some dudes talk about gravity and we're just trying to get some bear meat over here on the fire, that's not going to work. But any other generation, it would still work. So, like, if Newton had a 1900s education, God knows what he would have thought of. You know, so this author, I think, would work if he was the first person to ever do a manga, or if he started today. He would work, he would stand out. And I think maybe it's, you know, he's just different. Like, nobody else is doing these stupid ass musical reference names. Jay Giles. Bad Company. Oh. Nobody else is doing this, man. This man is on another level. I assume it's a man. On another level. So, of course, he doesn't do the stupid ass attack names. He's one of the few that doesn't. So, you know, that's just another reason he's awesome, you know. Yeah, this one's from Mada Koye. I quit King of the Hill after episode 1. I didn't like the messaging, though I don't remember what it was anyways. Same with Bob's Burgers and American Dad. Wow, you have a short trigger. You're like, man, this shit had better be good, episode 1, or kiss all of my ass. I don't know about messaging, though. There are authors who are just trying to impose a message on people. I don't think most of them are. I've talked about this before. I know I'm not. I don't give a shit. I think most authors are just trying to tell a story. And characters have viewpoints. Sometimes they have strong viewpoints. In fact, the stronger the viewpoint of the characters, the more interesting the story is. You don't want some milquetoast, pudding brain, doesn't take a stand, always sitting on the fence about everything. You want your character out there with a point of view, with an ideology. You see it in anime all the time. Oh, yeah, you shouldn't be lazy. You're too lazy. You should put the work in. You know, while he's kicking your ass, he's going to kill you. But at the same time he's killing you, like he fully intends for you to be dead and in the ground before he leaves this field. He's going to give you a life lesson. Strong point of view. Strong point of view. And it may not, and probably isn't, anything that the author actually believes. So I think people just sometimes think that the author is trying to, like, you're a writer because you want to tell stories, because you want to entertain. You're not a writer so you can program people into some specific ass ideology. Again, there are people who do that, but typically they're trash and their stories are trash. Like, what was those biblical religious stories about the rapture? There was a whole series of those. They even tried to do some movies about them, and they were garbage, man. It was religious people trying to tell a religious story from some kind of religious, we're better than you, you should stop sinning, I want to change your life in real life, I'm not trying to entertain you, I just want to change your life. Point of view. And it was trash. I tried reading one of them. I couldn't get very far. Just awful. So, that's, you know, you can tell that in that case. But most of the time you're just trying to tell an entertaining story, and like I don't know, like what you were talking about with like King of the Hill, but is his name Hank, or am I thinking of Breaking Bad? I think it's Hank Hill. He has very specific viewpoints, but he's so often proven wrong, and the fun of the series is how that happens. And Sometimes he's right. There's a great clip where, because his father's like racist, right? But he's racist and not racist at the same time because he encountered an Asian guy. I think he's from Laos, something like that. There's an Asian character on King of the Hill. I think he's from Laos. And the grandfather was racist towards him. He said something racist to him. And the guy called him out. But then the grandfather acknowledged that he was from that specific country. I think it's Laos. He could recognize him, and because somebody else called him something else. They called him Chinese or something. He says, "Hell, you talking about Chinese? He's from Laos, man. Can't you tell? It's obvious. He's from Laos." So that's typically the racism that most people find offensive, is that you don't even know what country they're from and you're just making assumptions and you're imposing that rather than asking or just being able to tell. You want to impose that shit on them. And so he was socially conscious enough to at least correctly identify the person he was being racist towards. So it was like one of those, the two sides at the same time, and there's a beauty in how that was portrayed, right? Because typically, if somebody's racist, they're racist all the way down, right? So I don't know. I mean, it's just if something isn't clicking, it isn't clicking. But I don't know if there are very many, if any, mainstream stories out there that are trying to impose a message on people. I think they're just trying to tell a story. But if there's characters that have a point of view that you just can't stand, and so that's why you don't like the story, that's valid. I don't know if characters like pro-life or pro-choice, whichever one you don't like, and they are staunchly that in the story, then I can see that just being annoying, right? They would just be a little grating. There was a Stephen King story, the Tommyknockers, and the main character was anti-nuclear power plants. And that's just an idiotic point of view from my point of view, what I think. Because nuclear power is used in the rest of the world safely. We've had, the thing that happened in Russia, that was unfortunate. And then we had 3 Mile Island. But if you know what the hell you're doing, France has nuclear power plants, and I don't know if Britain does. But there are plenty of countries out there that are doing it, and you just have to know what the hell you're doing, and you have to spend the money on the infrastructure and spend the money on safety. And it's a very efficient way to generate power, right? And you just have to know what you're doing with disposing of the radioactive materials. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and you have to know what people have to know what they're doing, not cutting corners, and really spend the money on it. And when there's always going to be companies you're afraid of are going to cut corners. So there are valid concerns with that. But to just willy-nilly considering power needs these days, to just willy-nilly just completely be closed-minded to that. And it was beyond that because we first meet this character in Tommyknockers. He's at a party. And he starts cussing out these people that are pro-nuclear power plant. He would walk in a room and cuss me out right now, throw a drink in my face. He was ranting. And he had this really hardcore rant about nuclear power plants, and it was really annoying. Just because and even with what I said with the messaging and stuff, I understood Stephen King, I don't know what the hell he thinks about nuclear power plants. I have no idea. This is not a consistent thing I've seen throughout his work. He's the only character that ever felt that way, as far as I know. So it was a character. It wasn't Stephen King. But the character was annoying. So I almost quit reading. I was like, man, this is annoying as hell. Who gives a shit? And I'm not even really violently pro-nuclear power plant. I don't give a shit about the conversation. I feel like it's something we should probably do, but I don't really care enough, right, to engage and listen to somebody just rant and rant and rant and rant about it. Shut the hell up. I don't care. So that's a case where it'd be annoying, and I almost quit. But then that was just how we got introduced to the character. I don't think it came up again the rest of the book. There was a thematic connection. I won't really spoil that but his concerns and his rant, got tied into an alien invasion. So we'll just put it that way. So it was kind of cool how he did that too. So yeah, it was just in service of the story. I don't think Stephen King gives a shit either way. Or if he does, we don't know what his opinion is. That's how it should be. But like I said, I think I could see there being cases where the character's views are just so irritating for whatever reason, whatever your trigger button is, that you're just like, man, screw this. I get that. I once loaned a book to a teacher of mine. It was my favorite teacher. He was a science teacher. And so I loaned him this book, and it was really good. It was about geothermal energy and the end of the world, and how like the Earth the axis of the magnetic pole might switch. There was a concern at some point we thought the magnetic pole would flip, and that would cause havoc throughout the entire world. And so this book was about that. But one of the characters cheats on his wife in the first couple chapters. And so I asked him, hey, what do you think about the book? And there was all of this exciting science in this book I wanted to talk to him about. He's like, the main character is cheating on his wife, so I threw it across the room. He rage quit. He rage quit the book because the dude was cheating on his wife. One of the better books I've ever read. That was his hot button. He couldn't handle it. So, I don't know, man. Each to their own, right? Also, Marakoye. I think I'm going to save this other Marakoye comment for when I do the podcast talking about the rage quitting, because he gets into the rage quitting anime. So let's save that for the podcast portion. Moving on, we've got Hunter Stone. The flaws the two characters from Death Note have aren't with their intelligence, it's with their character. Yeah, it's just it's really with their infallibility. I don't care how smart somebody is, you're going to make a goddamn mistake. You're going to make a wrong assumption. You're going to come to the wrong conclusion sooner or later. Even House, one of the smartest fictional characters we've ever seen, was wrong most of the time until he was right. Einstein was wrong. Einstein thought quantum physics was crap. He said God doesn't play dice with the universe or some shit like that. And, so Einstein couldn't wrap his mind around quantum physics, and just so his formulas can only go so far because he couldn't wrap his mind around it. We're gonna say he's a dumbass. Nobody's perfect except for these two characters in Death Note. They're perfect. Like, that's just annoying, man. Also, Hunter Stone would not be surprised if Ivan Cove had a butt attack. It would be better than a wink, wouldn't it? That wink. The more I think about the wink, the more annoyed I get. People are talking about, well, his eyelid was so strong when he slapped the eyelids together. At the time, I didn't really. I was like, okay, whatever. Now, because like his wink was so powerful, it like knocked people up in the air. Like he was holding a bunch of people. It was him and a bunch of other people. He winks and they go flying up in the air. Kiss my ass. Look, I'm not expecting realistic physics in One Piece, but I have my limits, man. That just the wink thing. Just, can we please do anything other than that? I hate it so much. I would much prefer a butt attack. All right, this is the last comment from the actual podcast. Hunter Stone. Since you haven't learnt yet, I'm going to yell at you so you remember. JoJo uses the word parts, not arcs. The internet will only understand if you use the word part. Well, it should use the word arcs. But I guess they're interchangeable, so I guess that's fine. Now, while I remember it, according to the movie Memento, yelling at somebody doesn't help them remember anything. It's just, they remember it or they don't. Like, this will probably remind me. I'll probably remember. Hopefully. It'll be over a month before I get to the next part, so I won't have to worry about it right now. All right, now we're into the Q&A portion. Apparently, at timestamp 2 hours, 57 minutes, and 4 seconds. Jesus, that was a long video last time. 50 Shades of Grey, that's where you got the gray from. Oh, right, yeah, it was 50 Shades of Grey. I was thinking of something I kept wanting to say Grey's Anatomy or some shit. Grey kept, but the character's name was Grey. I think I kept thinking that, but then discounting it. But yeah, 50 Shades of Grey. That was Ariel. At first I thought the number meant that she was predicting I was going to cuss at 3 hours. Like, I hope this video is not 3 hours long. It'll be how long it needs to be. I did 8 questions in 40 minutes. That's not a good track record. I should probably speed this up. So, with that in mind, Power of Death. The Guild Receptionist is an anime I'd never heard of, and I'm sure a lot of others probably never heard of it either. Based on episode 1 I saw with you, it did look good. It looks really good. And the numbers have improved. And I need to get back into the rest of the series. At least the most views you're ever going to get, typically, is going to be the first episode. So really, I judge an anime on what happens with episodes 2, 3, and 4 when it comes to this kind of thing. Unless the first episode gets like 10 views. If that's the best you're ever going to get, pull the ripcord. But a lot of times you get like 100, 150 views. And then you get into the series and it'll be like 40 views of that video. That's pretty typical. But the 140, 150 views for the first one lets you know, okay, well, I feel pretty good about starting this. Because it's only going to go down. So if you start at 20, it's going to go down to 5. So you want to start like at 100 so it can go down, right? So that's my philosophy anyway. 100 Stone. I laughed when I opened up the link to this video seeing it was over 3 hours. This video is around an hour and 30 minutes longer than the last feedback video. Hopefully this one will be somewhere in between. I don't know. I mean, I keep meaning to go and look at the watch time. Let me actually do that. Let me look at the analytics, the watch time of these videos. What's the average watch time for people? I'm actually very curious about that. I keep forgetting to do that. So the average watch time for the 3-hour feedback video was 24 minutes and 36 seconds. That's not bad, because a lot of people like accidentally click on it. Or probably what they were doing was they were just skipping to their name and watching that answer. Skipping to their name again, watching that answer, and then effing off, you know. Probably what's happening. 24 minutes ain't bad. I mean, it's terrible for a 3-hour video, but for my videos, with most of my videos average 21 minutes, and I doubt people watch those all the way through. For comparison, let me actually look at one of my popular One Piece videos. See, one that got some decent views here. Oh, this is a good one. JoJo's Diamond, JoJo Part 4, Episode 3. What was its average watch time? It was a 35, almost 36-minute video. The average watch time was 4 minutes and 16 seconds. So there's some bad data there. There's a bunch of people, you know, that just accidentally click on it. Or they click on it, don't like it, and leave. And then that, you know, because you average this out, if you have 10 people who only watch it for 5 seconds or less, it drags everybody else's average back, right? It should be, if they watch it for less than a minute, they shouldn't even be counted. That's how I look at it. I think it drags the people's average. So the average watch time is always going to be ridiculous. So I don't put a lot of stock in that, except for, like there was something I did. I did a reaction to a pilot, and it had a shit ton of views. It might have been, it was Desperate Housewives is what it was called. It might have been Desperate Housewives. I did a pilot for it. Reacted to the pilot. And it had an insane number of views. It had like over 100 views or something like that. But nobody, not a single person watched it all the way through. Like, so it was a bunch of people clicking on it, seeing what it was, and leaving. Because most people, I think, expect it to be an edited reaction. And people are like, where's the sound? I don't have the sound. You know, so they don't know they have to sync it to their own thing. I get that. I don't watch full reactions. I watch edited reactions. So I totally understand that. I'm just serving a different, you know, this is the only way I can do as many different shows as I do. So there are edited reactions on my Patreon, but the only way I can do as many shows as I do is I do full reactions. Anyway, that can be useful in a case where it's like not a single person watched all the way through, so I didn't continue, right? Nobody watched all the way through. So here, a few people watched it all the way through. So, you know, for me, like if it was me listening to this, because I do this with some podcasts. There's Trey Wingo has a podcast where he interviews people, and there's another guy who's an NFL insider who analyzes a draft, and so I listen to that. Those are typically 2-3 hours long. I'll just put it on. Like today, I had to walk 7 miles. So I had various podcasts like that just loaded up on my YouTube in my pocket, so I just listened to it, right? So I just put the shit on and listen to it. So it's good for like when I'm driving. I like long podcasts because when I'm driving, I don't want to have to change videos In Deep Geek, his videos are always like 12 minutes long. Because you want to be at least 10, right, to satisfy the almighty algorithm. You got to be at least 10 minutes long. His are about 12, always 12. So I don't listen to him when I'm driving because I don't want to have to change to a new video every 12 minutes. I want something long. So for me, just listen to it all the way through when I was driving or something. Yeah, so these kind of things serve a purpose. But yeah, I do try to keep it shorter, which I'm not doing by answering this question. So let's move on. Also, Hunterstone. Most people say Water 7 is the last point to decide if you like it or not, because many people believe it's the best arc of the series. If they don't like Water 7, they won't like anything afterwards. Yeah, Water 7 has everything the future arcs have. Has a lot of different characters, a long rambling storyline. The crew gets split up, the crew comes back together. Typically one crew member's in more danger than the rest of them. That varies who that is. And then you get a flashback from a guest star in the middle of the arc. So that's everything, right? Like that's the whole ball of wax. That formula maintains throughout all the other story arcs. Marineford is a little bit different. Did we get flashbacks in the middle of Marineford? I don't think so. I think we might have got flashbacks before and after Marineford. I don't remember getting flashbacks in the middle. If we did, it was probably Whitebeard, right? I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. But I'm going to be rewatching. I'm starting with Thriller Bark. I'm going to watch up through Marineford and then get to the time skip and then come back from the time skip, and I'll probably stop there because everything else will be relatively fresh. But I just want to remind myself of all that shit because there's all these things, all this stuff was in motion, all these things were happening. And I think right after a time skip, isn't it Fishman Island? That's not something I want to revisit anytime soon. So I think everything after them getting back together and, you know, being on Bubble Island, the doubles, the absolute blasphemy of the doubles, we had all that, right? So that's probably where we'll see how it goes. It might take me forever to get there anyway because I'm basically going to be combining a rewatch with the rewind. I'll rewatch it, but then in the same video, the rewind should be relatively short because most of my rewinds, what makes them so long is the theory craft and the unanswered questions and the speculation. There won't be anything to speculate for the most part. I just want to go back and look at some of the foreshadowing setups and some of the character premises and, you know, the way the characters move and operate. Particularly Blackbeard, Kuma, Raleigh. I want to revisit all that with what we know now. So that should be fun, but we'll see. If it's not fun, I'll stop. Or if nobody gives a shit. If literally nobody watches it. So the people will speak. All right, moving on to Mada. I think it's Mada Koyo. I think I've been saying Koye, or I've been trying to put an A at the end of it. There's actually an O at the end of it. It might be Mada Koyo. We got some comments from this person. For a show to be specifically called an anime, it must be Japanese. Otherwise, it's a cartoon, whatever it's called, from the place of origin. So, like the difference between Hollywood, American, and Bollywood, Indian. That's a pretty good way to put it, I think. Avatar: The Last Airbender is an anime-style cartoon. Not only because of how it looks and the fact that it was animated in Korea, but made by Americans, but mostly because it takes place in a world that is based on Eastern Asia. And so the cultures and characters are from Asian cultures. I totally thought it was a Japanese anime, I'll be honest. I didn't realize any of this. And since anime typically has Japanese Asian characters, people often conflate the two. Yeah, I sure as hell did. However, it's unequivocally a cartoon and not an anime. People will get mad at you if you call it an anime. Goddamn. Okay. Well, that kind of changes how I look at it, I'll be honest with you. Now I really don't want to watch it. No wonder I didn't like it. No wonder it didn't feel like all the other anime I watch. Because it's not an anime. Very interesting. Wow, I can't believe your 20% metric is so perfect. It did work out pretty good. I was pretty astonished at how well that worked out. So, yeah, I agree. Also, Madakoyo, you were making so many sexual jokes in your reaction to Avatar. I was like, is this Sanji? Jesus Christ, that is terrible news. I don't remember it. I'm going to assume I was drunk and move on. But, like, that is terrible. Those sound like awful reactions. Alright, also Madakoya. Speaking of older reactions, I recently saw your Gravity Falls reactions, which were really good and funny. I believe you watched them in 2022 and watched the whole show. I really enjoyed them. Yeah, I want more, man. The author isn't going to do anymore. They put a book out. And there's been some other, like, extended universe shit, like, a scavenger hunt or whatever. I don't know. It'd be great to get another season. I don't know. I don't know that he's done anything else since then either, has he? So I hate it when, like, you get some showrunner or writer or somebody, like, they do a great thing and it's actually a work of genius, which Gravity Falls absolutely was. I don't know why I have these on. Gravity Falls was a work of genius. But then they just don't do it like Mad Men. Work of genius. Now, Sopranos, that guy who did that, David Chase, he's done other things, but he was so damn old when he did Sopranos that, he was too old to really work anymore, I guess. I don't know. He did do the movie, which people hated. I was going to do a reaction to the movie, but, like, people hated it so much I never got around to it, the prequel. It happens so often. You get this work of genius, and they just don't really do anything else. I know that, like, there's some mini-series, some, like, 8-episode series or something the guy who did Mad Men did. And he's had some scandals, so he's probably not going to work in business anymore. I don't know. But David Fuller just can never seem to stick with the series for longer than a season or two. You had Gravity Falls. I don't know, man. I just wish that these people would go on to do something else that's equally good. I think it's a damn shame if they don't. I think also, what was it? I don't remember the show or movie or book series or what it was. I don't remember what it was. But the person said it would be insane to think that lightning would strike twice. Like, they got so lucky with how perfect the thing they did was, that the reason they weren't going to do anything else was that it would be insane to think that lightning would strike twice, is what they said. Which I always thought was idiotic. Give it a shot, man. What the hell was that? I can't remember what that was. But it often seems like, when we've talked about this, like, for instance, I was talking about James Cameron disease with J.K. Rowling. Like, she didn't try to write any more children's books after that. And she probably had that same sentiment. Like, there's no way lightning would strike twice. There's no way you get that lucky again, right? So why even try, I guess? It just seems like a quitter attitude to me. Give it a shot, man. See what happens. But they just won't. Or maybe what they said was it would be insane to think you would hit the lottery twice. I don't remember, man. I wish I could remember who said that and what the show was. Or the movie or whatever. It was such a quitter attitude, though. Like, it still annoys me to this day. Doesn't annoy me enough to remember what the project was. But I just wish some of these people would just do more things because they're clearly geniuses. Like, Stephen King wrote a good book. I read it. I really enjoyed it. I wanted more, and he's constantly producing more. And some are better, some are worse, but most of them are great. They're at least worth doing, right? I don't know. Stop being a coward and get your ass out there and try again. Ariel, unless it's a glitch, or am I tripping? I don't have a reason to be tripping, though. Imagine a drunk or high Ariel. I don't really know much about her, so it's entirely possible that could be all the time. I don't know. But apparently not. It looks like the Guild Receptionist has the most views now. I guess there's some fans out there. I had never heard of it before you watched it. Yeah, I think it's just like first episode thing, right? So we'll see what the drop off is. But I want to do Guild Receptionist. I want to do Solo Leveling. I think the other two are DOA, Dead on Arrival. But I definitely want to do those two for sure. Also, Ariel, I was not talking about Dragon Ball with the cracked ship. You have watched one episode of the one I was talking about. I'd name it because you probably won't even remember it if or when you eventually watch it. But it might spoil that aspect of the sequel series for anyone who's watching the original, if they care about being spoiled. And I know that the sequel series wasn't nearly as popular. Yeah, I won't try to speculate anymore then. But I am very curious what the hell you're talking about. Very, very curious. I can't figure out what the hell that would be. What if it's fairy tale? But no, I said I would not speculate. I'm not going to speculate. I'm just going to move the hell on. Hunterstone. Odo has already said he wants to do a spin-off focusing on Garp and one on Dragon and the Revolutionaries. I think that's a mistake. But who am I, right? I'm not the genius he is. I think he should just do something new. Just do something new. When I say mistake, the Garp thing will be great. The Dragon thing, I don't really care about Garp that much, but I would probably still watch it. But the Dragon Revolutionaries, I'm very interested in. I would love to watch that. I think that would be awesome. But I'd also just like to see a new story. This guy has such a fertile mind and such a creativity. I would love to see him do something completely new, and maybe he will. Who knows? Who knows how he'll feel when he actually finishes? Maybe he'll want a break. Kurt Sutter, is that his name? The one that did Sons of Anarchy, and then he did Mayans, at least the first part of Mayans, and he did the Bastard Executioner in between. What he did was, when Sons of Anarchy was ending, he was so traumatized by the ending because he spent 7 years working on it and was really going to miss it bad. He arranged it so he'd immediately start pre-production on the Bastard Executioner. They finished the edit of the finale on a Friday, right? The next Monday, he was starting pre-production on Bastard Executioner. He planned it that way. He didn't plan any time off in between so he could be sad and shit. So he just went straight to work on the next thing. And the guy who played Hank, when he finished on Breaking Bad, he got on a plane the same day to go to start working on Under the Dome, right? Terrible series. But he did that because, it was good to just get away from Breaking Bad. And not, you don't live in the sadness if you immediately start working on something else. And then by the time you finish working on that something else, a little bit of time has passed, and a little bit of perspective, and then you don't feel so damn sad. You can just appreciate what you accomplished on Breaking Bad. But going from the writing on Breaking Bad to the writing on Under the Dome would be like going from a 4-star steakhouse to eating dog shit. That's how extreme the difference is. That writing in Under the Dome was trash. Straight garbage, yo. It was fucking terrible. What I'm saying about Under the Dome, it's effing terrible. That's what I'm saying. Awful. Jesus, man. Just, we won't get into it. This isn't a Under the Dome podcast. But if it was. Barracuda. I don't watch TV, but that's because I have internet. Exactly, right? But there was a time when the snobs would have you believe they never watch TV, or I just watch it for the educational shit. Yeah, well, la-ti-da, aren't you the most awesome person in the universe? Wow, you're just so awesome. You're so more elevated and evolved than the rest of us. The rest of us are just scum swimming in the sewer. And you are an evolved human being with your fourth eye open. And your second anus open. And you're just you're so far evolved. So far beyond us. Kiss my ass. Now you Barracuda. You know what I mean. Them. The others. the elite who don't watch TV except for the educational programs. Because you must always be educated at all times. There's never can be any, let your hair down. Relaxation time. Garbage food entertainment. No. We have to always be educating ourselves. Ugh. Barracuda. I don't like One Piece for exactly this reason. I didn't like the main character. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that in the podcast. Specifically Luffy, but other characters, And I have a lot to say about Luffy, actually. So, that's going to be an interesting conversation. Back to Ariel. I can't recall ever rage quitting anything, shows or otherwise. Well, what else would you rage quit? Guess you could rage quit a relationship. You could rage quit a meal. They bring you out a tofu burger when you ordered a hamburger. You could rage quit the meal, just flip your table over. You could rage quit a game. You can literally flip the table over and rage quit a game. Dad and his brother, they didn't talk to each other for years after this happened. They were playing cards and his brother was talking shit. So he punched him. Right there, cars went flying everywhere. So I guess that counts as a rage quit, right? So, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what else we would rage quit. Maybe you're just talking about books and movies. Probably because in general, I hardly ever feel rage. Well, what do you do when you get to the pizza buffet and the person in front of you takes the last 4 slices of the meat lovers. What do you do then? You're telling me you don't feel rage? Like, that, you need rage in that moment. You need the rage to pick up the empty pie pan and slam their face with it. I'm not advocating violence. I'm intimating it, but I'm not advocating it. Yeah, it must be nice not to feel rage, but maybe that's never happened to you. Like, maybe we'll find out if there is any rage involved when that ever happens to you. I actually haven't been to a buffet. I used to love buffets, obviously, but I haven't been to one since the thing in 2020, right? So, but I don't even know if they do pizza buffets anymore. Yeah, now I'm hungry for pizza. Mostly, I drop shows because I'm bored. I think that's most people. But, maybe that's a worthy conversation. What makes you bored of a show? What is boring in a show? Let's put that on the list. Because rage quitting is one thing, but dropping because it's boring, like, what do you find boring? What is boring, right? For you and for other people. For me, what do I consider boring? I don't know that I've been bored by anime. I'm trying to think, is there any anime that's bored me? I don't think so. But I'll tell you, like, when I used to watch 24, the presidential White House, scenes would always be boring. I just want to get back to what Jack Bauer's doing. And then a lot of times there'd be characters I don't care about, like the office drama. These two people in the office are jealous of each other or something, or they're trying to smash or something. That shit would always be boring. So yeah, that would be boring. But in anime, I don't know. I'll have to think about it. But it's an interesting question. Or I'm not in the mood for the type of story, including maybe it being too intense. Yeah, like sometimes, like I'm really in the mood for like some sci-fi anime. I've seen a lot of fantasy anime. I'd really like to start getting into some sci-fi anime. Like Steins Gate was great for that, and I want more. But I don't think anything I'm doing. I don't know what this Garden of Sinners is going to be. Jonah has me doing Garden of Sinners next. That's the follow up to Fate Stay Night. But that could be sci-fi, so we'll see about that. But as of right now, I don't think I'm doing any sci-fi. Or I know I have to brace myself before going back. Why it took so long to get through the first season of Attack on Titan. Yeah, that was an intense show, speaking of intense. I enjoyed Attack on Titan a lot. I enjoyed the mystery of it. Now that I've seen it once, I don't have any inclination to ever watch it again. The mystery for me was the biggest draw because like a lot of it just wasn't enjoyable to watch. It wasn't boring, but I kind of hate what happened with the characters. I hate the time skip, and I hate that they didn't execute the time skip very well. After the time skip, we're just thrown into a new situation. We don't have any context. We don't know what the hell's going on. I hated that. So I don't know, man. That's one of those I don't think I'll ever watch again. I really want to watch Fullmetal again. And some of these others. I also watched the first episode of Frieren months before finally going back and watching it all. Seeing her crying at the end of the episode after we speed run to Himmel's death, I was like, nope, I'm not prepared for this yet. Yep, I know what you mean. But I'm glad I got back into it. Me too, because it was a really good series. Season 2 is coming out soon, right? Intensity is probably also why I haven't gone back to solo leveling yet. Maybe if you continue it, I'll give it another shot. I just can't binge watch shows where they constantly introduce hordes of characters just for most of them to die right away. And I could be wrong, but I got that vibe from Solo. Here's what shocks me about that. Ariel has a command of characters. Now, I don't know if she watches shit a bunch of times. But I've never seen her stunned for who a character is. Like, oh, yeah, that person, yeah, that's Fred. Fred's a 23-year-old man. He's got a wife and a new baby on the way. He's been working as a bartender for 4 years. And he's really mad at Sarah because Sarah's was an asshole to him in high school. Like, just not only the name, but how to pronounce the name, and an entire character bio, as well as a current organizational chart of that character's feelings for everybody else in the show. I don't know how the hell you keep track of all that shit. I really don't. I wish I had that talent. If I had that talent, I'd be unbeatable, in filmmaking and in reaction channels. You couldn't lay a glove on me, man. Like, I would just be awesome. Sadly, I don't. Alright, the next 3 are going to be from Hunter Stone again. I'm also a few episodes behind on Yu Yu, but I still think the voice actor for Kuwabara's sister, is still not great. And she never will be great. But, other than her, I don't find Yu Yu's dub as bad as he says it is. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously open to interpretation. People have their own opinions and everything. And I'm not saying I'm an authority on who's good and bad at voiceover. Just giving my opinion. Also, some of it is not like good and bad voiceover. I think it's directing choice, if they have a director, which I seriously doubt. For instance, most of the, well, not most, but I would say a good half of the villains speak in a monotone. It's such a weird choice for them to do that. Like, monotone is never the way to go with voiceover, unless you're like a computer, or there's a specific character you're doing that for a specific reason. Even then, you don't want them being in a monotone the whole time, or you just don't want them to have a very large role. Because here's the thing. Breaking Bad was really bad about this. Depicting something being boring for story reasons is still boring. And a monotone character being monotone for a purpose is still a monotone character, and monotone is boring. So, being boring on purpose doesn't save the fact that you're boring, right? So I just, the monotone thing just really gets to me. So that's one of the, like, as far as actual bad voiceover actors, Yu Yu's mom, which we have not heard, I don't think, in a really long time. I don't think I've heard her voice since maybe when I first started watching it years ago. So, she was bad. And then the sister's definitely bad. And then, I don't know, there was a couple other people that were terrible. I don't remember who they were right now. But really, the villain thing, that was like a separate issue. It feels like an artistic choice. It just fell flat in its face. I didn't like it. This comment is not about annoying shippers and more about writing and fan fiction. Let's say one character has these 3 character traits and a second character has another 3 character traits. And those include that they are both hate each other. Why would getting rid of one character trait of them hating each other change the other 2 traits? I do not get your idea that if Superman and Luke Skywalker shared a story, they are not Luke Skywalker and they are not Superman. I do not agree with a character can only work in their own story. Anybody can do that. That's the whole point of fan fiction. Any fan can create it. The stories people create don't have to be serious, published level quality, or fit into the canon. They are a fan of these characters, so they want to write about them, and that's all. Not to say that there isn't very quality level stories out there. Well, like, I wasn't saying people can't do anything. We were talking about what makes fans annoying. And we were talking specifically about the annoying kinds of fan fiction writers. Right? So everything you say is true, but the annoying kinds of fan fiction writers that are, we've already talked about this ad nauseum. So that's what I was saying. I wasn't saying people can't do it. They can do whatever they want. I can't stop them. Like, even if I'm like, oh my God, they can't do it, and I will do everything in my power to stop them, which is absolutely nothing. There's nothing I can do to stop them. I can't stop them. I will push back. I don't know that hating a person, like, it's not just a character trait. If you hate each other, Snape ruthlessly bullied Hermione for 7 years. It's not a character trait that she hates him, it's history. So, if you remove that they hate each other, you have to remove the bullying for 7 years. Right? And so then it's a different story. It's a parallel reality story. Which is fine, you can write a parallel reality fan fiction. What I don't understand is writing a continuation, say, when Hermione's 19. And I guess Snape would have to return from the dead. Or I guess maybe what they would have to do is before the final book or something. I don't know. I don't know the logistics of it. But you could write a parallel reality, but like a lot of people are like everything in the books happened, but they love each other. That's just not the way human behavior works. I mean, it's just it's not the way the Hermione was written. She was now there are people out there. If you bully them and you're mean to them, they will become sexually attracted to you. That's not the way Hermione was written. So what I'm saying is, if you're removing or rewriting the history between two characters, you're changing the characters. They're not the characters anymore. Like that's all I'm saying, right? Like if you're, the two, it's not just two people walk in a room and look at each other. It's like, yeah, I don't like the way she does her hair. And she's looking at him like, I don't like the fact that he's 3 times my age. Snape would have been, I guess, 12. I don't like the fact that he's twice my age. And then they don't like each other. That if that's what's going on, okay, just don't do that. Just ignore that, and then or create some character development in your fan fiction where they get beyond these instant impressions. These two, like, he hated her for being an insufferable know-it-all and not being in his house. And she hated him for him bullying her for 7 years. 6 years, I guess. So, that, like, to just pretend that didn't happen or to rewrite history, then you're changing the characters. That's what I'm saying. We can just agree to disagree on this one. Like I said before, just, not necessarily for Hunter because he knows what I said before, but like new people watching this, I like disagreement. I don't get butthurt over disagreement, and people can say that's what you're saying is stupid and I don't agree with it, and it's totally fine. Because I like new ideas. It makes me re-examine my assertions and make sure that I'm actually know what the hell I'm talking about. So, but yeah, I think this somehow it's almost like mission creep, right? Somehow the conversation has turned into I'm trying to stop people from writing fan fiction, which is not what the conversation started with. What makes fans annoying? Fan fiction came up, and so I said this is what makes fans annoying, and suddenly it's become I'm trying to stop people from writing fan fiction. So that's just mission creep. So we're obviously talking about the extreme kinds of fan fiction writers out there. And anybody who puts, Dobby with Harry. Like, you need to be executed on sight if you do that. So, glad I got such a reaction out of the Brooke versus... speaking of those kind of crack ships. Glad I got such a reaction out of Brooke and Laboon. Hilarious. I actually just made up that ship on my own. Why would you do that? Again, like I said with Ariel. Why? Why are we revisiting that if that was not a thing? I also don't want to search it up to see if there is a thing out there out of fear for my own mental well-being. Well, there is. Rule 34. There is a fanfic of Brooke and Laboon out there. Like, there may not be a fanfic of Chopper and Laboon. Like, that could be so obscure, like, probably nobody would ever think to connect the two. But Brooke and Laboon, there is 100%. There is something out there with his bone in Laboon's blowhole, whatever they call that. Yeah. That is definitely happening. Because they're connected to each other. So, you're doing yourself a great service by not looking for it. Alright, kill code. Okay, disregard my previous comments about Leviathan. Okay, disregard all my previous comments about Leviathan. I'm an idiot. Hey, he said it. I'm not making fun of him. It was not made by the Cowboy Beebop creator. I just looked it up and it's a totally different anime. The one he made is called Lazarus. I've actually heard of that. Also came out this year. I have no idea why I didn't bother to look it up sooner. Well, I mean, Lazarus and Leviathan, this is the shit I do all the time, right? Something seems like something else. So yeah, I do that all the time. Like, if those two, I'm totally the kind of person who would conflate Leviathan and Lazarus. 100% that would happen. Alright, back to Ariel. This is the last guy. She replied to herself, but these are the last 2 comments. So I just watched the pilot for Tapaki's Original Sin, and I think you would really like it and it might hit home for you. Don't want to spoil anything, but it does start off with a trigger warning. Jesus Christ. In fact, I usually end my night with a JoJo and Jimaton watch along, but I only have time for one and I need a laugh, so Gintama it is. Excellent. I finished it and I think it might be a good one to do. Oh, this was just from 2 days ago. The reply, right? It's only 6 episodes, although the first episode is a little longer at 37 minutes. It's a complete story. The manga was apparently only 2 volumes, so it's essentially like a short story. Yeah, I could probably fit that in. If you don't mind, Arrow, send me a direct message, so I will remember to do that. Not really a note taker. By the way, this is weird enough. I'm gonna do this. It happens a lot, actually. What I'm about to show you. So you see Hunter Stone there at the top, right? He in his profile pic, whatever, has an H with a purple background. Ariel is right below that, and her name's there. And when she replies to herself, you can see her avatar is just an A with like a blue background or whatever, gray black background, whatever it is. But you see how there's the H, the Hunter Stone thing there? Like, what is that? Like, this confused me. It does this, like, every now and then it'll just do this. It'll give somebody else's avatar. So sometimes if I call somebody by the wrong name, I'm looking at the avatar. It's like, because, the avatars become recognizable at some point. And, like, other people will have, like, actual images that upload, like, Power of Death and Kill Code images and shit, right? And Barracuda has an image. I always wonder who the hell that is in that image. It's some anime character. But some people just have the letter and a color background. I guess that's if you don't upload an image, that's what it does. But it'll give other people. This used to happen with Klaus. So I get other people's avatars, right? Profile pics, whatever it is. And at first I thought it might be people having like sock accounts. Like, it'd be like, maybe Klaus and Continual Rise were the same person. Because Klaus and Continual Rise would be having each other's avatars. So I thought, like, if you post something and you immediately switch into the other persona and then post something, the YouTube can get confusing, and since it knows you have the same ISP and give you that other avatar. That's what I thought was going on. But it's become so common for people who are obviously their own people, like Hunter, Stone, and Ariel are obviously different people. There's no question about it. And it happened with those two. So it's some kind of YouTube glitch. It's just weird. This doesn't matter. It's not about anything anime related. It's just YouTube being stupid is what this is. All right. Well, that is a Q&A. I think we got this in under 3 hours. So I feel very proud of myself.